Once again, just want to apologize for my voice. Still sick there, so sorry. Have you ever experienced a hurricane? Well, we have. As many of you know, we live in Florida. And when you live in Florida, there are some things you need to get used to. Seeing weird stuff at a Walmart at 1 a.m. Alligators walking along the road or in your yard. And not being able to go outside 8 to 9 months of the year because it's 100 degrees with 100% humidity. You also have to get used to hurricanes. To many Floridians, a hurricane is more of a hassle rather than a catastrophic event. It's not that we don't take them seriously, it's just that we've been through it so many times we know the routine by now. But that's not always the case. Also, we've decided to add a fundraiser to the American Red Cross in this video to help with hurricane relief. Please donate what you can to help all the families affected by Ian and other natural disasters. Just click that donate button in the upper right corner of your browser. With that in mind, I'm Mike with List 25, and these are 25 things you may not know about hurricanes.
25.
40% hit Florida. Yeah, more good news for the Sunshine State. It's estimated that 40% of all hurricanes hit Florida. The storms form in the Atlantic Ocean, spawn from winds blowing off the African coast. Those winds pick up the warm moisture along the equator and move towards and through the Caribbean islands, picking up speed as it moves. Because Florida is near those islands, it is susceptible to frequent hurricane activity.
24.
70-mile-an-hour winds. For a storm to achieve hurricane status, it must have winds of at least 75 miles an hour. Anything below is considered a tropical storm. As soon as it hits 74, it is officially a hurricane.
23.
Naming storms. The National Weather Service has not always named hurricanes. They actually didn't start doing this until 1953. At that time, only traditionally women's names were given to hurricanes, and they continued doing this until 1978. From that point forward, the names have included both traditionally male or female names.
22.
The name game. So where do those names come from anyway? Well, the World Meteorological Society creates the lists. There are 6 different lists that get rotated each year. Each list has 26 names, one for each letter of the alphabet. Quick, can you think of 6 names that begin with the letter X? I'm just kidding, you actually don't have to. The list doesn't use the letters Q, U, X, Y, or Z.
21.
Retired names. If a hurricane is especially destructive, the name used will be retired. So far, unfortunately, there have been 93 names retired. The first name retired was Carol, a 1954 Category 3 storm that caused $460 million in damages and took 60 lives. The newest member of the retired names list will be Ian.
20.
The storm within the storm. When you see weather forecasts about hurricanes, you always see the long bands swirling around the eye of the storm. Those rain bands, as they're called, are actually long lines of thunderstorms with hurricane force winds. These bands can range anywhere from a few miles to dozens of miles wide. The length of the bands will sometimes stretch from approximately 50 to 300 miles long.
19.
The right side. As a hurricane approaches, it's much better to be on the left side of the eye. The right side carries with it the strongest storm bands, which create the heaviest winds, most severe thunderstorms, and the largest storm surge. It is also the right side of the storm that has the greatest chance of tornadoes.
18.
Hurricane Katrina was the costliest hurricane ever. Hurricane Katrina was the costliest hurricane of all time. Katrina hit Louisiana in 2005. Many people lost their homes and lives to Katrina. The estimated cost of the damages done by this hurricane was $108 billion. To this day, some of the damage to New Orleans remains, and no one who was alive to see it will ever forget the images of the Superdome trying to house thousands who lost everything. Fun little fact, my cousin got married in New Orleans, and when I was there was a dude at the hotel who was telling me stories about how they suddenly would notice the floodwaters and then So they opened like the hotel to people to stay to try to get, to escape. He gave me actually like a couple things, like a pamphlet that showed like where to evacuate and stuff like that. I still have that somewhere. It's crazy.
17.
A Crafty Killer. When news outlets cover a hurricane, they always show weather reporters out in conditions that they should be nowhere near. I'm looking at you, Jim Cantori. Trees sway, street signs shake back and forth, tree branches and limbs get blown down the street, roofs are ripped off buildings. You've seen it. You would think that most of the people who die during a hurricane do so because of all this destruction. But no, most deaths that occur from a hurricane are from drowning. The most dangerous thing about them is the storm surge. The storm surge is a huge wall of water that the winds bring on shore that sometimes measure as high as 12 to 18 feet and cover nearly a 100-mile stretch of the coast.
16.
A storm by any other name. A hurricane is actually a tropical cyclone. If it occurs in the Atlantic, it's called a hurricane. If it forms in the North Pacific, they're called typhoons. If it spins in the South Pacific or Indian Ocean, they're cyclones.
15.
Tornadoes. As if a hurricane isn't bad enough, they bring with them high chances for tornadoes. When a hurricane is moving through the water, all of the speed is equal from sea level to the uppermost part of the storm. When those bands move over land, the wind that stays elevated continues to move at the same speed. The winds close to the ground begin to interact with buildings, hills, etc. This causes friction. The higher winds are essentially pulling the lower winds along. The two forces moving at different speeds cause tornadoes to form.
14.
The watch and the warning. When a hurricane is being tracked by the National Weather Service, updates will be given every 12 hours. The NWS uses several different computer models to predict where each storm is headed. When landfall is expected, tracking updates will be given every hour. If a hurricane is expected within 36 hours, all areas within its path are put on a hurricane watch. If the storm is expected within 24 hours, a hurricane warning is issued.
13.
The Cone of Doom. When hurricane models are shown in the media, you can see the general expected path of the storm as it continues to form, strengthen, and move toward land. This is called the Cone of Uncertainty. What the cone shows is where the storm is expected to go, depending on how strong it is and how fast it moves. The cone takes into account other factors, such as other weather conditions that affects the storm's movement. So it's not really where it is going to go. That's why it's called the Cone of Uncertainty. It's going to go somewhere in this cone.
12.
The hurricane frequency. There are usually an average of 10 hurricanes per year. Of those, maybe 4 will make landfall, but there are exceptions. In 1933, there were 21 named storms. That record was almost surpassed in 1995 when there were 19, but the record was smashed in 2005. That year saw 28 named storms. Since they ran out of names, they began using the Greek alphabet. Those storms were called Alpha, Beta, Gamma, Delta, Epsilon, and Zeta.
11.
The Deadliest Ever. The deadliest hurricane to ever make landfall in the US happened in 1900. It was a Category 4 that slammed into Galveston, Texas on September 8th. Approximately 8,000 people died, and the island was completely destroyed.
10.
Those that completed the journey. Obviously, a Category 5 hurricane is the most intense storm out there, but how many Cat 5s have made landfall? That number may actually be smaller than you think. To date, only 4 Category 5 hurricanes have hit the US. The Labor Day hurricane of 1935, Camille in 62, Andrew in 92, and Michael in 2018. None of these are the most destructive or deadliest storms on record.
9.
It's time to party. Believe it or not, some people, whether they're unable or simply unwilling, choose to stay and ride the storm out. Some areas, especially here in Florida, have seen so many hurricanes in their lifetime that the people feel like they know how to prepare and refuse to leave. This has given way to what are referred to as hurricane parties. Groups of friends get together, have many cocktails, and fun together while the storm rages outside. The southeastern major grocery chain Publix even sells hurricane party cakes for the occasion. It's a terrible idea. If you are told to evacuate, please evacuate. Do not have hurricane parties. It's a fun phrase and the cakes are delicious. Publix is amazing. Do not stay. I'm begging you. This is my serious face. I mean it. Don't stay.
8,
On a crash course. There have been times where two hurricanes formed in the same region. On these occasions, the two storms will actually crash into each other. Well, maybe not crash exactly. What happens is when they get close enough, the storms start to orbit each other until the larger one absorbs the smaller one. It's incredibly difficult to project where this developing system will go until it is fully formed.
7,
Andrew the Builder. Hurricane Andrew tore through South Florida in 1992 and brought billions of dollars of damage with it. Andrew was a Category 5 and was found to cause major damage wherever it made landfall. The damage revealed the lax building codes and code enforcement in the state, as well as low construction standards during the 80s and 90s population surges. Until Andrew, local governments could set their own codes and choose whether or not to enforce them. This was changed. The state of Florida now has among the strictest codes in the country. Housing along the coasts are now built to withstand the effects of hurricanes. So thanks, Andrew, for that silver lining, I guess.
6,
The Hurricane Hunters. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, or the NOAA, employs a group called the Hurricane Hunters. This team consists of trained pilots, navigators, meteorologists, scientists, and crew members in a specially fitted plane. The crew flies through the eye wall and into the calmness of the eye. While doing so, it takes readings to see how the storm is developing, does research on thunderstorms, coastal erosion, and ocean winds, as well as other research projects.
5,
The name of the beast. The word hurricane comes from the language of the Taino. These were the indigenous people of Florida and the Caribbean islands. The word was hurricane, the Carib god of evil, but that name wasn't completely theirs. Their word comes from the Mayan god of wind, storm, and fire, whose name was Huracan. It was picked up by Spanish explorers who continued using it, and over time, it became hurricane.
4,
Hurricanes have class. Hurricanes are classified by their strength. The higher the wind speed, the higher the class. To be considered a hurricane, the storm must have winds of at least 74 miles per hour, like we stated earlier. The classifications are as follows. Category 1, 74 to 95 miles an hour. Category 2, 95 to 110. Category 3, 111 to 130. Category 4, 131 to 155. And Category 5 is 155 and up miles an hour. If you ever want to get an idea of the force of those winds, the next time you're driving on the interstate, just hold your arm out the window when you're doing about 70 miles an hour. That's not even a Category 1.
3,
Not of this world. The largest hurricane of all time that we know of is bigger than the entire planet Earth. Yes, I am serious. Have you ever heard of the Great Red Spot? Look at pictures of Jupiter and you can see it. That red spot below Jupiter's equator is a hurricane. It produces wind speeds of approximately 268 miles an hour. If, as scientists believe, it's the same storm that has been observed since the 1600s, it would mean that this single hurricane has been happening for at least 357 years.
2,
An odd observation. Hurricanes are frighteningly destructive and should always be taken seriously. In Florida, we know the drill. Category 1 or 2, it's an afternoon rain shower. Category 3, okay, we're listening. Anything higher and we become vigilant. The problem is that hurricane paths change a lot. You may be in imminent danger one day and looking at a little rain the next. But here's the annoying part. Everybody freaks out. People think there could be a run on gas, so they take trucks with a dozen gas cans in the back and try to fill them all, which then causes a run on gas. They think there won't be any bottled water in the stores, so they go and buy more and more water than they would actually use in a month, which makes the stores run out of water. It's just crazy. So, yes, take the storm seriously, but don't panic. The panic causes more panic, and it's just, I mean, you guys saw how it was with the gas back in, with, the pandemic. It's the same thing here. Take it seriously, be smart.
1.
In the eye of the storm. While the most dangerous part of a hurricane is in the eye wall, the eye of the storm is actually peaceful. The eye usually ranges between 20 to 40 miles depending on the size of the storm. And if you've never experienced it, here's what happens. The storm rages around you. Winds and rain are pounding, and then nothing. The rain stops. The winds, if there are any, are calm. It's peaceful. And at the same time, it's pretty frightening. You can go outside, survey some of the damage, and wait for the second half of the storm to hit. So, do you feel like an expert on hurricanes now? Do you have any hurricane stories you could share? Let us know in the comments below. And as always, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, click that notification bell with all notifications on, and most importantly, use that link to donate to the American Red Cross for hurricane relief. Thank you all again so much, and I will see you next time. Maybe my voice will finally sound better. We'll see.
Be sure to click that subscribe button and the notification bell so you don't miss out on new videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Share them with your friends and help us consistently conciliate curiosity. And if you want even more lists, check out these videos here or just head to our website at list25.com.